It's the start of a new era for the Locked On Sports Podcast Network. We are now talking Utah hockey right here on the Locked On NHL in Utah podcast.
You are Locked On NHL in Utah, your daily podcast on all things hockey in Utah, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On NHL in Utah, your daily podcast on the NHL in Utah and formerly the Arizona Coyotes. This podcast was formerly known as Locked On Coyotes. So if you're tuning in for the first time as a fan of the Utah team, welcome in. If you're tuning in from my time as host of Locked On Coyotes, I welcome you guys, and I challenge you guys to continue following this team, following us. I've really appreciated all you Coyotes fan support if you've been following me for the last 3.5 years, and I welcome in all the new Utah hockey fans. My name is Robyn Leano, your host of the show. As I mentioned, I have been host of the of Locked On Coyotes for 3.5 years, and now will be your host for Locked On NHL in Utah for the foreseeable future. I am excited to get you guys going. I've been covering this team even longer than my hosting job. Knowing the ins and outs of what was once the Arizona Coyotes for almost, a little over 7 years at this point, covering the Tucson Roadrunners, going through, all of the ups and downs. I hope to be the person that you guys turn to when it comes to finding out all the new news and info for the Utah hockey team. We're going to keep saying it, be pretty generic until we know the official team name, because we don't know about it yet. Going on this show, you're going to expect me to talk about a lot. Make sure you guys, at least for the next couple weeks, a lot of you guys are maybe new to hockey. If you are, welcome in. I'll be introducing you guys to some players, to some ins and outs of what's going on with this organization. If you have been a fan for a while, maybe you're just jumping on the Utah team because it's going to be your new team. I will be getting you to say, hey, these are the players that to pay attention to. This is what you need to know if you are going to be a fan of the NHL in Utah. We got a lot to get to on today's episode because we are going to talk about we have a lot of things to unveil. We were off for a little bit. I had to go through some emergency things, but we're here, and we're getting things taken care of. And a lot has happened since we last spoke. The team names is what I want to get things on here, because the Ryan Smith officially put out a survey. NHL Utah owner Ryan Smith put out a survey to begin the fan vote for the top names for the new team, for this NHL team. And I will be going through those names a little, and what I like, what I don't like, what might be a wild card. It's like, hey, I don't know how I feel about these kind of names. I'll kind of break those down later on the show, but to kind of get you an idea of what's going on. So 20 names have been selected to the start for the very start of this deal. Figuring out, all right, these are the ones that we can. These are the options, and these fans will be able to vote from them, and the top ones will move on. We'll see what it goes. I think I saw the polls are open until May 22nd. Yes, May 22nd. Fans can vote up to 4 names, and again, I will share with you guys the 4 names that I am choosing as my personal favorites. Maybe you guys can choose to follow me if you'd like. If you don't, then don't. I mean, it's all about your own personal preference. I'll be showing you my own personal preference. Like I said, we'll get to that later. But here's the interesting things that you should know about right now. This team isn't going to be having their true new name until the next season. So they're going to be wearing just basic jerseys. just with the name Utah across the jersey. Very simple. Maybe a lot of you guys might turn to like any similarity of what's been going on for this very first season in the PWHL, because the PWHL, guys, if you guys if you haven't been following at all, the PWHL is the Professional Women's Hockey League, the new women's hockey league in town, and they've been doing great. They've been selling out a lot of games. They've been breaking a lot of records for watching women's hockey in North America, which has been fantastic. None of the starting names, none of the starting teams for that league has any name. It's just PWHL Minnesota, PWHL New York, TWHL Toronto, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Essentially, it's going to be the same thing for here. It's just NHL in Utah or NHL Utah, whatever they're just essentially just go by temporarily until the team name is selected and ready for once again next season. It's an interesting decision. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about it being that basic in the NHL. I mean, like I said, there is precedent with the PWHL and it's worked. Fans are still coming out and they're supporting. They're buying the jerseys. They're doing it all. I don't know. I am a huge fan of identity. I feel like a team from the very start should have an identity. So that goes with again with my president of the PWHL, I would have loved for each of those teams to actually have a name to really, so you can identify with that team. It's like, oh, like I am a fan of blank. I can say, if you are all of you guys are Utah sports fans. A lot of you guys who are tuning into the show, if you're tuning in for the first time and you are a Utah sports fan, I can say it's like, so I am a Utah Jazz fan. You identify with that. It's like, oh yeah, like I'm just, I'm an NBA fan, or like I just follow the NBA team in Utah. Like that does like yeah, sure, like you could say that, but like everyone loves to find their identity, and not having a name, it kind of starts off on the wrong foot of a team that from a team that's already had bad a troubled history with marketing or getting their name out there. The Arizona Coyotes, they struggled a lot. They really struggled a lot for a lot of situations under poor management, poor ownerships, and a lot of fans outside of Arizona looked down upon that. They're like, "Oh, see, it doesn't work here. This is the case." Like I sure hope that's not going to happen here in Utah. I think I don't think it will. I mean, I'm hopeful that it won't. Based off what we saw in that like opening like fan fest or whatever you guys want to call it, where it was like a massive, huge crowd, so many people going to greet the team for when on their very first like appearance at the Delta Center in downtown Salt Lake City. It it impressed me. I will say it really impressed me. And I'm like, this is what I wanted. This is what I would have hoped to see. These players really deserve that. They really deserve to have a welcoming fan base. Would I lie and say that, I feel like it's the best thing ever? No, because I don't yes. I'm happy for all those Utah fans, but as a person who still lives in Arizona, it kind of twists the knife a little bit, saying that they, some people were loving it as, more or less or whatever it was from the times in Arizona. It's a lot. It really is a lot to unpack, but no team name. You guys now know my thoughts. I need an identity. I need to say as I am a fan of blank. I am a fan of the Utah what? I will talk about the 20 names that were that are on the poll, and I'll kind of tell you guys which ones I like, which ones I don't, and which ones are wild cards. It's a really complicated 20 names. We'll get to that in just a second, but first, we just got to take a quick break so we can hear from our sponsors on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by Policygenius. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk you through it. Your work-life insurance policy may not cover enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found their best fit for their needs. Check life insurance policy off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Click the link in the description. Get your free life insurance quotes. See how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Let's continue things on this episode of the Locked On NHL in Utah podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Robyn Leano. One thing I didn't mention in the beginning of the show, I want to mention it now. If you are a Coyotes fan and you're still listening, you're still tuned into the show right now. I also, maybe if you're following the team of Utah, whatever it might be, I just want to also offer my condolences to the other daily podcasts that covered the Arizona Coyotes. The one, that was hosted by Craig Morgan, Steve Peters, Leah Merrill. They were good friends of mine, and that podcast has since been deactivated due to the situation. And I just want to send my condolences to the entire community that followed that podcast. They were a huge go-to. And if you were a fan of that podcast and you are looking for a Utah podcast, once again, I hope to be your point person to that end. As someone that's covered the team from Arizona to right over to Salt Lake City, I get it. But let's get back on track for this episode. Once again, 20 names to start off with. That's a lot of names to kind of unpack. I'm just going to go ahead and read in the order that was listed on the survey from the Smith Entertainment Group that was put out from Ryan Smith, officially put out on what names do you prefer for the NHL's Utah for Utah's NHL team. That's what it says on here. I'll say NHL's Utah team. It sounds weird to say that, but the Utah's NHL team, that sounds a little bit better. These are the 20 names, and then once again, I will tell you which ones I like, which ones I don't like, and which ones are wild cards. But here is the entire list before I break all that down. So you got, by the way, these are all starting with the name Utah. So I will just sometimes leave the Utah prefix out, just for continuity purposes here. I'll start off and kind of throw it in a little bit, but you guys get the gist. So you got the Utah Blast, you got the Freeze, the Utah Yeti, Utah Canyons, the Utah Ice, Utah Venom, Utah Outlaws, Black Diamonds, once again still with Utah, Caribou, Swarm, Frost, Powder, Utah HC, Hive, Mammoth, Mountaineers, Fury, Utah Blizzard, Glaciers, and Squall. That is a lot of names to unpack. I'm going to go ahead and start off with you guys. And here are names I don't like. I want to start off with those. First and foremost, there's a huge chunk of names I don't like or names that I'm very looking for here, on the fence about. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about these names. To me, I'm gonna be straight up. A lot of these names, most of these names to me feel very EA Sports NHL create a team vibes. It's just like they seem very basic, just like, oh, what's a winter a winter themed name? What can we think of that's the best winter themed name? Doesn't even have to like maybe even like identify with Utah itself. And I'm like, that just feels weird to me. The ones I don't like. All right. And I feel like a lot of you guys might agree with me on this. And if you think I'm wrong, call me out. If you think, hey, I like this name, or hey, or it's like, hey, dumbass, you like this name? This name sucks. Whatever it might be, I want to get your opinions. And if you voted, let me know which 4 names you voted for. But let's go and get to the ones that I don't like before I get to the wild cards and the ones I do like. So the blast, the freeze, the frost, the powder, the HC, squall, ice, glaciers, fury. All of those out. I just do not like those. They're way too basic. Ice is like, to me, like maybe is like on the verge of like, okay, like a hockey name. There's been precedent before. If a hockey name named Ice, it's a junior team though. That's Winnipeg Ice, and that's like, I believe, if not mistaken, that's capital I, capital C, capital E. So it's all capitals rather than just ice. I really don't get it. That you would do that. The Utah Blast. I don't know, if I think in my head, if I just say Utah Blast, it just makes me think of Baja Blast, like the freaking Taco Bell. And I'm like, I just don't like. I don't know why that came into my head. I was just like, I don't know why. Why would you do that? Utah HC. What are we gonna have? Washington football team kind of vibes again, and have them do that? Come on, please. I mean, yeah, sure. Like you got like Real Salt Lake, but that actually worked because you're talking get like for a soccer team that worked. You had other team names that are, or like let's say like that work. Some team names will go like, hey, you have FC for football club for those, or SC soccer club. Those work because there's precedent on teams that do that. Am I a fan of that? No. Like I said, I am a fan of identity, something unique, something I can cling to. None of these really give it to me. Glaciers is, yeah, sure, maybe. It's very basic. Frost, very basic. Squall, why? Fury, again, very basic. I just do not like. I just don't get it. And I sure hope most of you guys agree with me on this, because last thing I want is to be honest with you, is to say one of these team names. I really hope so. I mean, HC I will stomach. HC I will stomach if it's like I said, like if they can decide on Utah, if they can say Utah HC for this year, I'm cool with that. I am cool with that. Utah Hockey Club, like that would make it things easy for a temporary name, but I don't like it as a permanent name. Which ones do I think are wild cards? Utah Caribou is an interesting one. I had to think about it, and I'm like, okay, maybe you're going into animal vibes, getting some like what I believe was a caribou or reindeer, I think, like reindeer or like an elk or some some kind of animal with those kind of antlers. Kind of cool. Don't think I don't think I've seen anything that would look like that. I mean, I kind of want to see how far in branding you could go with caribou. It doesn't roll off very well, so I'm kind of leaning more towards the not really vibes, but not bad. Mountaineers, sure, it's fine. It's kind of basic, but I mean, it kind of works. I mean, technically, if we're talking in all technicality, Utah is part of the quote Great Basin Desert, but it's essentially on the foot of the of the Rockies. Let's be real. And it's Mountaineers. You're pretty cool. You're right there. You're also right next to a lot of like if you look at the pictures of Salt Lake City, it's right next to the mountains. I get it. It's a decent name. But I not one I would go with. Utah Canyons is an interesting one, guys. Like, a lot of you guys might not like it, and I can understand why you wouldn't. But it's an interesting name to have up on there for a lot of different reasons. I'd like to say that it's kind of cool that they're putting an ode to to Utah's many national parks, of which are canyon based. Heck, you got Zion, which is essentially a massive canyon, or set of canyons. Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands. If you can't tell, I'm a huge national park buff. I love I love national parks. I actually have it on my list to visit every national park. So if you actually in Utah and you know all these Utah national parks, feel free to give me tips on each of these, because once I make my way up towards Utah eventually, I will want your advice. What parts of these national parks are good to check out? But that's a side note. That's a huge side note, guys. It's an interesting thing, yeah, because those are the canyons. Even more than just the national parks. It's just this is kind of ode to what the kind of vibes are there. Maybe, maybe why I might be against it is, I mean, maybe I'm looking too much into it. Maybe I'm looking a little bit too much into it. Of that, hey, this is a situation where it's like it could be like a slight slap in the face to Arizona, which is home to the Grand Canyon. So that's why I'm like on the fence about it, but also just like, it's like, why would you name a team Canyons? Utah Venom, not bad, but also not good. I'm just like indifferent about it. I feel like you can do some really awesome branding. I feel like Utah Venom could really have a really awesome brand, but for a hockey team, not entirely sure how I feel about it. It's got a lot of potential, does have a lot of potential, but I feel that would probably be like number 5 on my list. So, like I said, I actually don't mind it at all. I feel like it's got a lot of potential, but it's still not among my top 4, which are the 4 that I think could very well be, at least my favorites. I mean, let me know once again, let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I am wrong for my favorites. We are running a little bit over time though, so we will get to my favorites in just a sec. But first, a couple quick words from our sponsors on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only. Available to U.S. customers. All right, guys. The moment you have been waiting for probably on this. On what I say. There we go. On what I say are my top 4. I know you guys, a lot of you guys, at least on social media, have either DM'd me or mentioned to me and say, "Hey, what do I think the name should be?" It's an interesting question to ask someone. Look, I will not claim myself to know very much about what it's like being in Utah. I've never been up there, guys. So feel free to educate me on Utah culture. I'm still learning a lot about it. Like I said, those that tuned in, a little over a week ago, I had Rachel Donner on the show. She really shed a lot of light on my understanding of the culture of the hockey culture up there. And I'm like, you know what? I am feeling a lot more confident about how it works up here. But I still have a lot to learn about Utah. So once again, just let me know if you think I'm wrong. I will be happy to accept defeat. But when it comes to team names, I might not be may have your best opinion. But when it comes to getting you all the updates on what the team is going to be like, I will be that person for you. Once again, as like I said, I've been following this team for years. But what teams do I like? So a lot of you guys probably have figured it out by now that there are only a couple team names left, from the names that I didn't mention, from the names I didn't like and do like. So it's kind of easy to do by process of elimination if you were following along which ones I do like. And that is in no particular order: the Utah Black Diamonds, the Utah Swarm, the Utah Yeti, and the Utah Outlaws. I feel like, all right, I want to figure out the best way to break this down. All right, Utah Yeti. Let's start with that one. A lot of you guys have submitted this one and say, hey, this is your favorite. So many people say this is their favorite one. And for the longest time, I was even saying how much I don't like it. And to be honest, I am still not the biggest fan of Utah Yeti. I believe, to me, it might be might be number 4 on this list for me. But for a couple of reasons. It just for me, I just aren't the biggest fan of continuing with, mythical quote unquote creatures. And again, like I said, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about this. From a marketing perspective, I feel like it could have a really good branding. I feel like you can do a lot with Utah Yeti. Plus, it rolls off the tongue super well, which is the only reason why I have it in my top 4. Utah Yeti. Some of you guys, here's what the comment I want to make about this. Some of you guys have said it should be Utah Yetis with an S. And I will say to you, I will look you guys dead in the eyes. No. And for a couple reasons. Look, I get it. A lot, so many of you guys are so attached to the idea of having plurality to a sports team name. It is a single entity, guys. Why does it matter? Yeah, sure. Most team names are just that. They're names, and they have an identity. Their identity is that. You got most of them are those plurality. You got the the closest by to Utah. You got the complete total opposites. You got the Colorado Avalanche. Of course, you can't say avalanches. That would just sound weird, right? And then you have the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, you wouldn't just do a singularity on that one. That just would sound weird too. There's so many team names that do that. Chicago Blackhawks. You have the Detroit Red Wings, St. Louis Blues. So many names do use plurality, which is, I think, why we've been growing accustomed to that. That it's like, hey, it has to be a plurality. Even when you were in probably high school, college. Example: I went to the University of Arizona. We were the Wildcats, the team in Phoenix, or in the Phoenix area, in Tempe. the Arizona State Sun Devils, all with an S, with the plurality. So having a team name, especially with Yeti, where you can add the S, once again, and I will say it, from like a roll off the tongue perspective and from a marketing perspective, having not the S and having the singularity the version of the name, I think works really well from that perspective. But that is just one person's opinion. Let's get to the other ones out there. The Utah Swarm. Not a bad name. I actually like it. I think Utah Swarm is probably number 3 for me. Now, I have learned through through many sources. A lot of people were telling me, "Hey, look, Utah is the Beehive State. Making some kind of reference to that would be kind of cool. It gives you an identity. Here we go, identity with your area and an understanding of what it is. I think it's a really cool idea. Swarm just sounds pretty awesome. It's kind of close to the idea that I had a while ago with Rachel, creating the idea of like the Utah Sting. I think that would have been really cool, but that name, the Sting, wasn't a name option, so I think the Swarm is the closest to that. Now you're probably wondering, there's a name I mentioned. There is a name that I missed, right, out of the one you probably noticed. I did not say the Hive out of any of these names, specifically because I think the Hive would be the perfect nickname of the home barn, like, for the Utah Swarm, if that's the case. It's like, welcome to the Hive, home of your Utah Swarm. That kind of sounds pretty cool. I mean, like, I feel like you could do a lot with it. I think it's not a bad name at all. There could be some drawbacks of, referencing to the Beehive State. Could be maybe a little bit too niche. I don't know. Utah Black Diamonds to me is a name that I actually didn't think I would like. But it's definitely a very, like, if you're looking at a winter themed name, but also want to get into something that's, that is somewhat uniquely Utah. Like, yeah. Do you have Black Diamonds ever, Black Diamond, winter sports, or whatever however want to refer it to as, anywhere like skiing slopes or whatever, anywhere else? Yeah, of course you do. You got, freaking the Rockies and Denver and the areas around there nearby too that have it. But with Utah having been, like Salt Lake City, for example, and all that, having, previously held Winter Olympics and been specifically known for that, I feel like Black Diamonds can work. I think it's pretty cool, to be honest. I feel like it kind of rolls off. To me, it's my number 2. It sounds cool. It's got a lot of potential. The only drawback I can think of, really is, like, again, one, it might be a little too niche. Those that aren't like snowboarders or skiers or that level of like winter sports, other than hockey centric, might not be like, what Black Diamond, what's that supposed to mean to people that don't get that. Plus, then, you can make the other joke too, that's like, so the Utah Black Diamonds are also really close to the Vegas Golden Knights, to have 2 different colored two word team names with colors as they start off with. Like, is that a cop out? That's getting into nitty gritty, but I like it. I kind of didn't think I would, but not bad. All right, here we go. Utah Outlaws. That is my number 1. Utah Outlaws is my number one. I don't know. Like, to me, it comes like with the ideas like Utah, Salt Lake, there's this area. It's part of the Southwest, which is known for, the quote Wild West area, outlaws. It's a very historical aspect. A lot of you guys might be like, oh, but it's freaking now all run by by the church, and there's a lot of other things. Like, look, you guys are getting too deep into that. You're looking too deep into that. Like, if you look at the culture, I think based off of the limited knowledge that I know about Utah, I think it's there to have Outlaws as a name. I feel like you can have really good branding on it. I feel like a logo for Utah Outlaws could be cool. I'd love to see a jersey Utah Outlaws. It checks off the box of the plurality if you're really into that. And I feel like from just most perspectives, it just works. From just like, all right, I feel like a lot of people will like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it. But to me, it just fits. I just feel like it sounds good to say. It's easy to say. It's easy to remember. It's not too niche. But it still kind of clings to the American Southwest. So, yeah, sure. Let's take it. You know what? I'll be happy with it. I will be happy with it. So Outlaws is my favorite on for this one. But once again, I want to hear with your thoughts. What is your number one? What's your top four? Because this survey, once again, it had you vote on your top four. Give me your top four. Which out of these 20, which did you vote on the survey? And if you didn't vote, and you're wondering where it is, because you might not be on social media, or you just haven't been paying attention, I'll probably put the link in the description, so you if you are watching on YouTube, so you can kind of follow along. I went a little bit, longer than I expected on talking about this, guys. Kind of ramble on, a lot of tangents. But when it comes to coming up with a team name, it's a complicated process. But once again, like I said, if you can kind of tell, I'm not the biggest fan of most of these team names. I wish the 20 names were better. I wish that the selection was a lot more Utah focused, was a lot less just generic. But I guess that's part of the process, I guess, where you kind of, wean all of that out. You just have, all right, here are some basic NHL created team names, and then here are the ones that we like that stand out from the rest. Maybe that's the case. Something we didn't talk on today's episode that I will push over to tomorrow. If you guys want to if you guys want to hear about it, I can go a lot more in depth about it. The NHL Utah team will be picking 6th in the NHL draft a little bit at the end of next month, at the end of June. If you followed the draft lottery, Utah did not move up, following the trend from the Arizona team, which never moved up in the NHL draft. And also congratulations to the San Jose Sharks for winning it for the first time and getting the opportunity to draft Macklin Celebrini. That's a huge one. What name? Who might the NHL Utah team pick at number 6? Those are some things we can talk about on the next episode of Locked On NHL in Utah. But if that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, SiriusXM, ad-free on Amazon Music. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We are on X still, right as of right now. We are still at LO_Coyotes. That's good, but that's due to change soon. If you go to that profile, you'll notice that it has changed, at least the display name and most branding to our new name. Once again, Locked On NHL in Utah. So be on the lookout for a new Twitter handle or /X handle, I should say, for this podcast coming soon. I am personally at Robyn_Leano. It's spelled right down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, that is ROBYN_LEANO. You can interact with me and interact with us. Ask us a question you might have. We might answer right back or in a future episode of the Locked On NHL in Utah podcast. Well, thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys have a good one.